Windows Azure Mobile Services and Azure Websites provide a powerful combination for building modern apps. Together, they really streamline development and help build flexible backends easily and with scale in mind. As we discussed in the first part of this video, our setup is a mobile contest application. And in the first part, we covered such aspects as using multiple authentication providers and being able to write and read both table data as well as binary data using Azure Blob Storage. In this video, we'll build off of that scenario and look at Azure Websites and specifically the connectivity into the custom API functionality provided by Azure Mobile Services. And we'll also extend some of the scripting functionality with Scheduler as well as some third-party add-ons. Let's take a look at Azure Websites, one of my favorite Azure services. The reason why is because it makes it so easy for a developer to publish, manage, scale, and integrate with other services. And in this case, we built a very simple MVC app. Could be done in PHP or Node.js. And in our case, all we want to do is display some data and also be able to approve, feature, and act upon some of these items that have been submitted by users. Our site is live, and we can take a quick look at it in our Azure portal. Here we have information on its status as well as the URL, and we can easily click into it and see more information. So besides the tools, I like to look at the publish profile right away to integrate that with my Visual Studio, and that provides a very easy way to publish my code onto a website. Or if I'm building a Node.js, PHP app, I can integrate with GitHub, very simply Dropbox, and any other source control. Also, I can see other options such as Dashboard, which provides all the critical information right in one place, information on the CPU and data, all the different stats in terms of the load of my instance, and also information such as connection string, database connection, etc. This provides me all the critical info in one place. Now, if I wanted to set up environmental variables for my site, be it .NET or PHP version, you can see that they're easily accessible from the configure menu. I can also set up application variables and environmental variables down below. This includes all the key information in one place. Super easy to manage from the portal or command line if you choose to do so. And finally, one of my favorite options is scaling. Here you can easily change your website mode depending on how much capacity you need, or increase the instance count. All of this is done as simply by sliding the slider. Finally, because of the tight integration with mobile services, I wanted to show you how in our case we easily get the information for the mobile service and simply drop that into our project. In this case, this is a heavy HTML5 JavaScript project, and we can take the connection information for it right here by clicking connect, and essentially the two scripts, actually the one script that we want to drop and information on our mobile service and the key, we can just copy and paste directly into our Visual Studio project. Back in Visual Studio, the mobile services library, the JavaScript libraries, registers right here via the ASP.NET bundle. Of course, the bundle only works because it's been registered under bundle config. This essentially provides the connectivity between my app and the Azure Mobile Services. Here in the web app.js, I drop the mobile services information with the key, and from here on, I can start calling all the different functions that mobile services could use to interact with my environment, all of my APIs that mobile services had set up. And this is an example of authentication through Facebook that we have been calling in our ASP.NET app. Finally, to build the product, publish the project, it's really simple. We take our publish settings, which you can see here, and through web deploy, it's as easy as click and go. And all of the changes that we had made to our project are almost instantly being pushed out to Azure Websites. Hopefully this will take only a second, and in a minute we'll see our project that essentially has been built and published out and is now live running in Azure Websites. Very simple and fast experience, and there it is, and we can proceed to log in, and now we're actually using that function that we just referenced to authenticate against Facebook. As easy as 1, 2, 3. Now, what if we had an API to this admin backend? So specifically, using custom APIs to do things like push notifications. When an admin for example, looks at an item and does something with it, taking a photo, for example, and featuring it, we want to send a push notification. Or let's just say on approval, we wanted to act on this item. All we need to have is a custom API which allows us to interact with that resource. And that is very easy to do with Azure Mobile Services, a relatively new feature, but you can really quickly build out APIs to use by your system. In this case, photo submission, a custom API that we've defined, and that's available for access to everybody. In production, we need to secure that to the appropriate level. So through script, we define a function that handles multiple operations on one endpoint and handles both get and post operations. Here we get row ID and operators, and then pass that along with some parameters to the doAction function. And doAction in turn routes each of the action verbs with whatever parameters we need, for example, status, row ID, etc., and the request object, so that the underlying code can interact with that and send back the success response on that row ID for that specific action. So back in the web client, let's take a look at the way we implemented this specific interaction with the API. We call on the API URL, and at that point we iterate and call the AJAX method to pass the ID in the URL to the endpoint for each of the photos with that specific action. And once we pass that, we can refresh the data, which is an internal method to update the list and handle any errors that may have occurred that have been passed back. This can be done in any language, .NET, PHP, Ruby, etc., as long as you can compose a URL that handles either post or get. And then anytime the API is called, through scripting, we can define appropriate functions. In this case, update photo submission, we take in a row ID so that we then can act on it using the action verb that was provided. So if we wanted to feature an image and then send some push notifications, we can do so very easily by simply plugging into that specific Azure service. In our case, we want to send push notifications, so all we need to know is the device type, the device token, two critical pieces of information, and from there on we issue the send notification function, which handles all of the push notifications for us depending on the device type. So if it's iOS, APNS, Android, GCM, all of that in the background is done by Azure Mobile Services for us. All the infrastructure and plumbing handles all the heavy lifting, and all accessible through our API. Next, let's take a look at the scheduler jobs and using third-party add-ons. Scheduler helps run scripts on a schedule or ad hoc by a management portal. Go into our mobile service, click on Scheduler, and we see the job that we have set and how frequently it has been run. Once we go into it, we can configure these parameters or go in and configure the script we want to execute. In this script, we wanted to send an email using SetGrid add-on and in-app notification in our admin portal using Pusher. We're executing the getTable method of the tables object to retrieve results where photos equals submitted. And this really allows us then to count the number of results and send an email to the admin saying, hey, there's X number of mail, and also do that via the in-app notification using Pusher. All you have to do is reference the service you want to use. In this case, for the Pusher function, we need the app ID and the key that is all provided via the Azure portal through the add-on functionality that I'll show you in a minute. And once we have that, we can then go ahead and pull the trigger on the Pusher. Now, you can run this report ad hoc, which we'll do right now, and then we'll see if in the admin we can get there it is, the push notification. And since we wrote this event to log, we can also go into the mobile services log and see the status of what we had done. So we can see here, push notification has been sent, and we also had the information on the status of the items that were submitted right below. As I mentioned, the add-ons are accessible right here in the add-ons feature, and we can see the Pusher and SendGrid links for the services where you can get the connection information down below, or we can actually click and manage our add-on directly from the portal, which connects into the provider's website and helps us see the stats and other relevant information directly from the Azure portal. In summary, this demo shows how Azure Mobile Services, scripting, and API features can be used together with Azure websites, both on the client with the client SDKs, and on the web backend, same services can be leveraged for consistent architecture and developer experience. For more information on Windows Azure, visit windowsazure.com, and thanks for watching.